We said we want to build our dream model railroad system from scratch in several episodes. So far a lot has happened on our small model railroad here. The ICE is already making its laps on our railroad routes that I built in the last episode. Everything started with this ICE2 starter sets a couple of episodes ago. This starter sets contains most of the parts we need. There is, of course, the ICE, then we have a central control unit called mobile station, enough tracks to form an oval, and also two curved turnouts. We have already upgraded the two curved turnouts with a digital decoder and an electric turnout mechanism. We bought these two turnouts additionally and upgraded them with a digital decoder and an electric turnout mechanism as well. We have laid out those tracks, plus we have bought an extension set containing a nice dining car for our ICE. All of this can be controlled using this, the so-called mobile station. We can start our ICE with this, and we can turn on and off the lights and sound effects. We can't just control one train with the mobile station, but up to 40 trains can be managed with the mobile station. And with the power feed we have on this model railroad station, we could have up to 4 trains running at the same time. So the starter sets gives us a very nice multi-train control unit. This episode will be about electricity and the power supply. Because our model railroad is, of course, an electric model train, and that's what we will have a closer look at today. When you unpack the starter set, you will find this mobile station and this track connector box. Let's turn this off for now. This track connector box will be connected to a power pack. I did that already. Put the plug back in and the mobile station will turn on again. But the power remains switched off on the railroad system until you press the stop button to repower the system. And then the train would theoretically start driving again. I will unplug everything now so that we can start from the beginning. We connect this thing through our track connector box to one of the tracks. I'll remove one of the tracks, and on this track we will connect the whole thing using a red and a brown wire. They are already firmly attached, as you can see here, and they are clamped here right under the track. Now the track is powered by the connection box, so if you remove that, nothing will move at all, since the circuit is dead, so to speak. What we want to do now is to enhance the electricity distribution. As we know from physics class and from everyday life, some power always got lost throughout the way, all along the tracks. Right here at the front, the power supply might be excellent and the engine is well powered. And back there, the performance becomes poor. Same situation maybe here in the train station, since it is already very far away from the power source. So if you want to make sure the power supply is equal everywhere, you build a so-called ring circuit, meaning the electricity flows around in a circle and gets fed in regularly at various points of the railroad. So ring circuit means we take a red and a brown wire, these are the two red wires, red and brown, and lay out the wires in a circle throughout the system, and connect the wires to the tracks every once in a while. We could feed in electricity every 50 centimeters or every 80 centimeters into the railroad system. Here is the second wire. Alternatively, we could choose a star-shaped circuit as well. That would be an option here, since our model railroad is not so big. It's rather small and robust. I'm drawing this in here. We could choose a spot with a free space here at the front. That's where we will place our track connector box, this little box here, right here on the side. And then we can place these two distribution strips somewhere where we can easily reach them. For example, right here at the side. After that, we have to pull in this small wire over to these two distribution strips. We will cut this wire with a pair of scissors or a side cutter. And then we will rewire it using a small plug and connect it to the distribution strips. After that, we can lay out the wires coming from the distribution strips to every area where we might need them. For example, over there to this first area, here, or over there to the second area, or that area. So we can reach every area using our star-shaped circuit. And since our wire from our track connector box is quite long, it would be even smarter to place the whole thing here to create a central power feed, right in the middle of the system. And from here, we can go in a star shape in all direction of our model railroad system. It doesn't really matter which type of arrangement you choose at the end. You can build it like that, or you can build it another way. At the end, the accessibility by hand plays a major role when you continue with your handcrafting. The central power feed is only needed for the ring circuit, but you could add other equipment as well, which needs electricity from the track. You could connect signals or a decoder, like a turnout decoder, or a signal decoder, which could power several signals at once. And doing that, you can professionalize the whole thing. I do not want to overwhelm you with this. This is a very advanced stuff. But we could place this here and pull in the wire. Let's start easy. I will cut through this here and add a plug to it. That's pretty much the same that it was in my childhood. You have plugs and sockets. And before you get too worried, I will show you what this looks like. That's just what this has always looked like. You have these little brown plugs and these little red plugs. Now we decide which strip will be red and which one will be brown. And we connect it accordingly. And this will be the central power feed for those connector sockets. Now we decide how many of such power feeds we want. This here is the first, the one over there is the second. These are the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And I would say we need 2, 4, 5, 6 red plugs. We plug them in here on the side. That's where the wires will go later on. You could also connect the wires first and then the plugs, but I will do it this way now for your better imagination. I will finish this side now. I hope you can see everything in the camera. If not, rewind the video and pause it. I guess you can see it. It is not very hard. Just plug them in. We do the same on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I wanted 6. So let's take this one too. I did say 6 power feeds, didn't I? 6 it was. And the same over here. This one is twisted. Let's take this one instead, plug it in, and now we have already done the most important part. Now I'm going to get some small pliers. I will show it to you. You can either take a pair of pliers like this and cut through this wire and afterwards pull it very carefully. I'll demonstrate it right now. I can cut this wire here now and then hold it carefully and pull it lightly and peel off a piece of the insulation. Now the bare wire sticks out. If you use too much force, you cut through the entire wire. So you could also use this tool. I have it here to show you. You can buy this from Märklin with this tool. I cut through this brown wire here right at the very front to keep as much wire as possible. Afterwards, you can put the wire in here and take off the insulation. This is done very nicely now. We repeat that on the other side. Cut this off with this tool. There comes also a small built-in cutter and peel off the insulation here. We will clean up the trash afterwards. Now we have already prepared these 2 wires to centralize to the track connector box. What's next? We need a screwdriver. We need a flat-bladed screwdriver. Yes, that's right. Yes, it is. We unscrew the small plug here at the side and push this in. If it sticks out too far, just fold it over. It will fit better the way. Now we have put that in. Now just tighten it until it's firmly in place. Looking good, very important. These 2 parts must not touch. If they do, it will result in a short circuit. So make sure you place these metal parts far enough away from each other. Otherwise, this will be a short pleasure. Nothing bad happens here, but the power will go off because of the overload situation. There is the plug. Open it up connect them, and screw it tight. It makes no difference if you connect it to the distribution strip first and then work with the plug afterwards. Important for you is that you see how the wiring must look like. Now that's it already. I can place my track connector box over there and check how long the wire is. That's long enough. I can reach this spot very good, so I can place the strip here. I don't know if you can see that now. That's where they are now. I can place them there, and remember, make sure they have some distance between them so that the metal pieces won't touch. And you want also some space around them to connect more wires to them if needed. That's why I would place the two strips like this right now. Now we have our first tangled wire situation. What can we do about tangled wires? Here is, you can see it. I do have a curve for that. It's called shrink tubing. I brought you some, it's over here. You can use this usually. These are used to insulate wires. They are not very expensive. You can find it at every hardware store. I always use them to enhance my cable duct. Where are the scissors? I cut this one in two because it doesn't have to be that long. Now take this. Best to do this before screwing, since this is too small now. I'll unscrew it quickly. I can glue this using the hot glue, and I can combine these since they are both insulated. I'll unscrew it. This way I can glue the wires to the railroad system. You could also glue the wires directly, but that's not very nice looking. So I will do it this way. This goes there. This will be done like this. Now I could attach the track connector box a little bit fancier, for example. That way it will be ready to go. Should I glue the track connector box? I won't do that right now, but I will leave it for here for now. This is ready now. Let's take another shrink tubing. That way everything will look much nicer. You will get tangled wires eventually when you start setting up many signals and illumination. If you keep things tidy now, the easier will it be for you afterwards. You will have a lot of wires. I always make sure the wires are straight to see where each of them goes. So right along here at the side, from here we can go over there. That's very good. So here and there I will glue this in a second. An alternative is a staple gun. You could easily staple right here. Many people do that, but I would not recommend to do this. The risk of damaging the wire with the staples is quite high, and that will result in more trouble with the electrics. What's next? Right, starting my hot glue gun to hot glue this stuff. There is the cable for the gun. I'll take another shrink tubing, two for this direction. Since I'm seeing it right now, this is also an alternative. You can also use luster terminals. Simply pull through the wires without screwing the wire tight. Afterwards, you simply glue the whole luster terminal to the ground. That way, the wire will also stay at its place. So it doesn't really matter whether you use the shrink tubing or luster terminals. The advantage of the luster terminals, everything looks tidier, since you can see on both sides where the red wire and where the brown wire is. Otherwise, you have both wires inside one shrinking tube, so that's much tidier. Like here at the luster terminal, you can pull through the wire and continue on the other side. Unscrew it a little to push it through. Normally it pushes through easily. That's the way to attach it to the system. So that's another alternative to attach it. When the wire is inside this, they are usually very tight. Alright, so shrink tubing or luster terminals. You have different options. It's all about creating more order on the railroad system. What shall I use now? Luster terminals or shrink tubing? It doesn't matter. What do you like more? Please comment what you like more in the comment section. No matter what I will do, I still have to preheat the glue gun first. I'll take the shrink tubing here, then we will have finished this. Now screw it tight again. While I'm doing this and while the hot glue gun gets ready, I'll screw it tight now. We can prepare the plugs for the connections for the tracks. We will need flat receptacles for this job again. You can buy these directly at Märklin or at every model railroad shop. At last, that are the things we will connect from the wire to the power feed. I will show you one time how it is done, and you can finish the rest at home. Otherwise, this will take too long. Also, this won't take that long. Unscrew this. Well, let's do not rush, otherwise this won't work. Well, you've seen this before, so I'll show this from further away and don't get any closer with the camera. I connect the little brown plug to the distribution strip. Now it's connected. The red one is connected as well. Very good. Next, we will need these little fellows again. I have organized a pack of these flat receptacles. That's what they look like. And they are similar to the ones that we have cut off right here. Only difference is that these are silver and these are golden or brass. Let's take them out. Now we can connect these flat receptacles to our wire. Let's do it like this. Cut it through. This cable duct here, this ring, you can also call it stranded wire, and you can also find paired stranded wires. It contains a red and a brown wire. You may know that from audio cables. Now take this. I have to use this pair of pliers now and hold it carefully at the side. And now I can take this wire with the insulation peeled off and pinch it in. I'm doing it slowly now. Pinch it in firmly. Now the electricity can flow from this red wire over to this brass flat receptacle. Since this is my red wire, it will be later connected to B on my track. This way I have created my first power feed. I do the same thing with the second wire, with brown as well. Let's see how long it will take. Afterwards I could either use my luster terminals or my shrink tubing to prevent tangled wires. As a rule of thumb, it is better to have more cables and more wire at home instead of too little, because it is annoying when you have to go back to the store because of that. Or if you have to wait for the postman. Fix it tight, you can see it. I show it to the camera, clamp it and push it in. Well done. We have this hard wired. Let's see where we need them. Now I open them from the side again. We could use this shrink tubing again. I'll put it through the same duct. Let's see, the flat receptacle is still flat enough and it is working. Just big enough. And here I will also take a second one. This way I can stick it on better, using the hot glue later on. Pull it through like this. While I am it, let's take a third one. They are on sale today. This is a bit bigger, but that's okay. We have lashed them in place. I can take my curved track now. I could also take the straight track from before. That doesn't matter. I will not take the curved track since we go with the star-shaped circuit. It makes much more sense to take the straight tracks. Now we take this one there at the side. And we connect the red wire to B like track current. Still very tight. And 0 was the brown wire, also called the grounding. You could glue the wire to the track if you wanted to. You could also drill a small hole into the railroad route. We could use a small drill. Drill. Where is it? There it is. You could drill through the thin wood and pull the wires through the hole. I think I will do that. Using the hand drill, it will take a bit more time. Drill a small hole. Alright, you can see that's very spontaneous. It would have been smarter to drill the holes first, then pull the wires through and then to the shrink tubing. This way I have to pull through the entire wire. So let's take it off again. Now that's glued on very strong. That's for eternity. I guess that's good news, the way it will hold for sure. Now let's pull it through here on the side. You probably cannot see it since I drilled on the exact wrong side. I would have better drilled here on the side in front. I'll do it a second time, that way you get to see it. Now number 1 and number 2. No pain, no gain. Very nice, they are attached firmly and now we reconnect it. 0 to the ground, to the grounding, and B, not for brown, please remember, but for track current, in German Bahnstrom, the red wire. Put it in here, now we can easily pull this through here. Don't pull too hard, otherwise the wires might get torn off. The professional would solder that on. So if you, for example, you don't want that to go apart ever again, you can use a soldering iron and solder that on there. If you don't want to solder, you may also stick it fast. You also have just seen this was already on there very tight. And solder can break. My advice, before you put in, simply clamp it here at the front. The way they are already very firm. That way they are already very firm. We want to build more power supply points anyway. We will build one right here in front of me. I want one at the train station as well, but I do not know where exactly yet. I'm still thinking about that. But I want to start here at this position at this long track. That's where I want another power supply. Let's see where the wire would stick out, probably here. Let's take the drill again and drill right through here. It's very soft wood, so it's easy to work with, even for beginners without carpentry knowledge, just like me. It's easy to drill through. Ideally, that would be sanded off a bit. Do you have some sandpaper here? There is some. Let's sand it off a bit. Looks nicer now. Now we take our wires again and pull them through now. We could use our little trick and pull it through from the other side, since we will cut it through in a second anyway. Normally you would finish one wire first and continue with the second wire afterwards. That's how you could do it as well. Let's do this quickly, pull it through. They are coming from over there. How long do I need them to be? Make sure they are a bit longer instead of too short. So that will be as long as this. We can always shorten it later. But extending is not possible. That should work. I cut it like this. Okay, perfect. Now we can pull these two wires through just like they are, both at the same time, coming from down here. I can reach them better from here. That's the normal sequence. First pull through the wires and then connect the flat receptacle and so forth and so forth. That's a little bit better. Next step, peel off the insulation really quick. 1 time and 2 times. Reconnect the flat receptacle. Hold it tightly with a small pair of pliers. Put it in here, clamp it fast, make sure it is very firm, so it won't open again. You could clamp fast up here, but just very lightly to make sure it is better connected to the track. Red goes to B, like track current, connected here. Next one is the brown wire, connected to 0. Take another flat receptacle. Let's calculate how many flat receptacles we need. We have 6 power feeds with each 2 colors, so we need 12 of these flat receptacles. How many are in the package? It contains 20 pieces, so 1 pack is enough for the project. That's something you can always have as a basic piece of equipment in your model railroad toolbox. I always have 2 or 3 packages here in case you want to craft something. Sometimes you make a mistake or do something wrong with the glue or something like that, and you might need more of them. Now, this power supply here is also ready. Let's connect it. Let's check how many wires do we need, how much shrink tubing. When do we want to add the shrink tubing? Now I have tangled wires. That's how I planned it. That's the trick. Untangle the whole thing here. Just perfect. Perfectly right. But it's okay. I'll finish that when you are not looking. I will fix that before our next episode. Now, how much wire do we need? Approximately this much. I want to go over there in a straight line. Oh no, be careful with the ICE, I don't want to break it. Now here and then pull it over there. Alright, let's cut it through here. The red one must be as long, let's measure it. As you can notice, the ICE is still standing on the tracks. Please take down your trains before you do this kind of work. I did not do that, so shame on me. It would be a shame if a train falls off if you bump into it. They are way too expensive to just push them off the railroad route during handcrafting. I recommend to take the trains off. I left it on there for you to see. When tinkering, take the train off the tracks. That's good for the train. What do we need here? We need a plug. Take off the insulation. You see, when you have done this several times, you get very fast. And you can finish such a model railroad within a week or so, during the holidays or during vacation. Do not put flat receptacles on there. We need 2 plugs now. Put this here aside. If your plant too short, you can extend the whole thing with a socket. They work as adapter, which can be plugged into the plug. That way you can extend it or separate it if you decide to disconnect it at some point. I did that with my mobile station or my track connector box. I have 2 railroad systems, and if I want to use the track connector box with my Christmas railroad or a small diorama, I don't have to buy a second track connector box. You can simply unplug the track connector box with a plug or socket, and then you can connect it to another track of a different model railroad. That way you can build yourself a tiny railroad system with leftover tracks, for example. I guess you are already commenting on what I did wrong now. Correct, I did not do the shrink tubing before I connected the plug. I cannot pull this through, so I did this for nothing. I have to redo it. I guess after the 3rd time you finally remember which order is the best. So take these off again, but for now I'll let you continue working on your own. That's all the same again. Cut the shrink tube in 2 parts to unwind it a bit, depending on where you need it, to make sure it looks tidy. Now we also have the second plug. I said I would show you one time and finish it. And that's what I will do. Second shrink tube is done. That's done. Now these 2, that way we can bring it in order later. Pull this through down here, and that's what I meant with reachability. Always place the boards in a way that you can reach everything. Makes the tinkering much easier if you can reach every spot. Don't forget my hot glue gun, it's still turned on. Always remember, otherwise it will smell funny after a while. That's why I will glue my shrink tubes to the system to finally establish the order. I connect it now over here to test it. Right here at the side it is connected. I have to tidy up a bit first. I can place this shrink tube. Where is it? I can place it right here at the side. That's the way it is much tidier. I'll finish that later at the beginning of our next episode. I will show you the result. Let's sum it up. The ring circuit establishes a constant flow of electricity all around the model railroad. I'll see you again in the next episode of Let's Build a Model Railroad from Scratch and we craft a model railroad together. If you have any questions, write them down in the commentaries. We will not leave them unanswered. See you next time. Goodbye. And now I will glue this on there.